Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah na'maduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Inshallah, today we'll go over the topic like how do we respect other people, because normally people have a tendency like we would like to give respect to senior people, we'll give respect to Islamic scholars, Islamic preachers, parents and teachers. But the problem here is like some of the Muslims copy these from other religions and implement the same in Islam. So we have seen like some of the religious leaders being considered as superior to them and they'll go and bow their head to them. They'll kiss their hands. Even if they get a small thing from them, they consider that as a blessing or something like big. Also, they will not treat them in the normal way, like a normal human being. So inshallah, we'll see in Islamic perspective, is that the right approach? Like even if he's an Islamic leader, can he think in that way? As well as we being a Muslim, can we treat him superior to us? We'll see various hadiths as well as in Quran ayat like how we have to consider respecting others. Does it mean like we cannot respect others? Yes, you can give respect to others, but it doesn't mean like you need to bow your head down or consider yourself inferior. For example, you can give respect to elder people, like you can help them in their needs, and if they are struggling for something, you can always help them in ways that you can, and which is Islamic as well. It should not go beyond the principle of Islam. In that way, you can show your respect to them. It need not be like you should consider superior also. And we can take the quote from Prophet. It's mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari 3445. Prophet ﷺ says like, do not exaggerate me or do not praise me like the Christians praised the son of Maryam. And he says, if you want to praise me, say I am slave of Allah and his apostle. So even for Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who deserves all the praise, he says, if you want to praise me, don't praise me like the Christians did. If you want to praise me, say me as slave of Allah. In addition, if you want, say me the messenger of Allah. Because it is through him we'll get all the principles and the teachings from Prophet ﷺ is what we follow in our life. So when we consider this, then we cannot praise Rasulullah ﷺ more than this. How do people think like they can praise awliyas and keep them above, like superior to others, and praise them in a way which is totally un-Islamic? And we'll also see like we have seen in our current situation as well as some of the religious leaders. If you see them, they'll portray themselves superior in a way whereby they'll distinguish them from others. If you see their dressing, they'll have like a turban or something. Their dress will be totally different and they'll look totally different to a common people. If they sit in a gathering, they'll be easily be able to be identifiable. They'll know like, okay, he's being considered something superior. He's a specific Islamic leader. That's how they portray themselves. But was this the practice that Rasulullah had? If you go through the hadith like Sahih al-Bukhari 5809, we can see like one of the villager comes to Prophet Muhammad. Prophet is wearing a scarf or a shawl, which is like it's a thick shawl. He comes and grabs it so hard that it marks impression on his shoulder. And he asks like, Prophet, oh Muhammad, give me from what Allah has given you. What did Prophet do? Did he get angry? Did he think like this is an act of disrespect? Rather, he smiled and asked him to be given something. This was the behavior of Prophet ﷺ. And in Sahih al-Bukhari 63, we can find like there's a man who comes in a camel and he enters the masjid. And he is looking for Prophet ﷺ. He asked in the gathering like, who is Muhammad among you? And the Sahabas shows Muhammad. Then after that he goes, he interacts with them a lot. But the main point here is the person who comes here, he doesn't even know who is Prophet ﷺ, because he is among the people. There isn't anything that is distinguished like he is able to identify. He has to ask them and get it. Is that the current situation among leaders right now? they'll be in a gathering. Even if they are in a gathering, they'll have a separate place and they'll only mingle with some set of people. But Prophet ﷺ did not do that. So from this we understand what is the reason for mentioning this is these are all the ones that we need to develop, as well as we should not follow those leaders who are totally going against Islam in these kinds of, like, in the way like they expect respect from others. In Sahih al-Bukhari 4638 as well as in 4811, it's mentioned like the Jews who lived under the leadership of Prophet ﷺ, they used to address Prophet ﷺ by name. Like they used to call him like, "Oh Muhammad." Even further in Sahih al-Bukhari 2422, we can see like a prisoner, he is got captive, and Prophet ﷺ sees and asks him like, "What have you got to say?" And he replies, "I have good news, O Muhammad." The point here is like either it is like the Jew or even the prisoner, he is addressing Prophet ﷺ by his name, like, "O Muhammad." If you consider the current situation we have here, they have to be called like Maulana, Hazrat, or Al-Hajj. Even if they write their signature, we can see like they mention that they consider that as a privilege to do it. But Prophet ﷺ never ever expected these kinds of respect. And we can see throughout the life of Prophet ﷺ, we can quote some of them whereby he was mingling with people in a common way. So it's mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari 3373. Like some of the people were practicing archery. So Prophet ﷺ goes by and he sees them, they were practicing archery, and he encourages them and he says like, "I'll be on one side." So seeing this, the other side, they said like, "No, then we'll not do it because we do not want to be against you in this." Then he says like, "I'm for you all." Here we can see like, even though it's something they are doing as a thing like practicing it, he did not leave. He encourages them to do it, as well as he also gets involved. This is how a leader should be. Also in Sahih al-Bukhari 2837, during the battle of Ahzab, people used to carry sand and mud, and Prophet ﷺ was one among them. He used to carry sand and mud. So from all this, he was not a leader just to order, but rather he implemented himself. He did all those things by himself. And further, in Sahih al-Bukhari, it's narrated by Aisha radhiyallahu anha. It's mentioned in 407. Allah's messenger saw some nasal secretion on the wall of the masjid. So he could have very well called some of the Sahaba or somebody over there and asked them to clean it. But he cleaned it himself. He scrubbed it off. This is narrated in Bukhari 407. From all this, we can see like Prophet ﷺ never considered himself as superior. In Sahih al-Bukhari 2352, it's mentioned like a tumbler of milk was brought before Prophet ﷺ. So he drinks it. And after that, like he is in a gathering whereby in his right side there's a normal man, the name is not mentioned, and his left side he has Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. So on seeing this, Umar radhiyallahu anhu thinks like rather than giving the milk to the other person, he wants it to be given to Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. So he says like Prophet ﷺ to give the milk to to give the milk to Abu Bakr radhiyallahu anhu. Then what Prophet does is, after drinking the milk, he gives it to the other person, and he says like, "You should start with the one on your right side." So from this we can see like he respects all the people in the same way. Like he did not disrespect the other person. And also other thing to consider here is he sat among common people. It was not like he was sitting in a group where they have only like big shots or so, or wealthy people. They had Sahabas, and this person is not even named, but he can sit next to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This also we should recognize in this. And from all this, we have seen like Prophet Muhammad led a life whereby he was behaving like a common man. He never distinguished himself from other people. Then Prophet Muhammad did not do it. There is nothing we have to think like others can do it, and we should not consider anybody as superior above us. We know like we can appreciate their knowledge. Yes, we can take their, if they are mentioning from Quran and Hadith. But for that reason, we cannot consider them as superior and give more respect than a common man. So it's meant like it's mentioned in Tirmidhi 2754. Prophet says like the Sahaba mentions like there is no person more beloved to them than the Messenger of Allah, and they would not stand when they saw him because they knew that he disliked it. So from this we can see like Prophet never liked even people standing for him. he disliked. He did not mean it in a way like we know, like some of the leaders will say like, yeah, don't stand, but in their heart it is not the one. Here he implemented it. Sahabas knew, like Prophet Muhammad did not like it. He will hate if he sees people standing for him. So from this we can understand like you cannot stand for even for other man. Like when they did not stand for Prophet Muhammad, you should not stand for other man in terms of respect. Also in Sahih Muslim 413, it's reported by Jabir al-Anhu. Like Prophet ﷺ was ill and he was conducting prayer and he was sitting and doing the prayer. And the people behind them, they also followed, but they were standing and praying. And he noticed, and in a gesture, he asked them to sit down, and they continued the prayer. After the end of the prayer, Prophet ﷺ said, "You are doing the act of the Persians and the Romans." And he said, "They stand before their kings while they sit, so don't do it." Here he further says, like, if the Imam stands and prays, you also follow the same. If the Imam sits and does, you also make sure you do the same. Here he wants to make sure, like, even though they knew like they were not standing in terms of respect, like it was just as an act of worship, they were doing it. He wants to make sure like you have to follow the Imam, and it should not even come a thought like, okay, they are doing it for the sake of they're respecting Prophet ﷺ. So from this hadith we can clearly notice that. Okay, we have seen like we should not stand, but is it like we should not stand for any of the cause? No. Prophet ﷺ, we can see from the hadith Tirmidhi 3872, where Aisha radhiyallahu anha is narrating it. Like whenever Fatima radhiyallahu anha comes to their house, Prophet ﷺ used to stand and then welcome them and and make them sit in his seat. Similar was the case when Prophet ﷺ goes to the house of Fatima radhiyallahu anha, they used to do the same. So here from this what we can understand is, in terms of welcoming, if somebody comes to your home, your friend or some relatives, you can stand up and welcome them. And the thing to note here is, when you go as well, they should do the same. It means like it should be mutual. But for example, if they don't do it and if you are going to do it, then it means like you are giving some special respect for them. That is not acceptable. As long as you welcome them and they also do the same, as long as it is mutual, it is permitted. We have seen like Prophet ﷺ mentioning people, he did not allow people to stand, but we have seen people like in the name of leaders expect other peoples to bow before them. As well as there are people who go and bend their head, they kiss their foot. So from the hadith we can see like this is completely prohibited. So also we'll see like whether sajda, like sajda meaning in terms of bowing down, is it permitted? So in Quran chapter number 41 verse number 37, it's mentioned like, and from among his signs are the night and the day and the sun and the moon. Prostrate not to the sun and the moon, but prostrate to Allah who created them. Here he clearly mentions, don't prostrate or bow down to the creations, but rather turn your head or bow down to the Creator. So we have to bow down. If you are doing sadha, we have to do this bow down only for Allah, not to anyone else. And further, Prophet ﷺ also said in an hadith in Tirmidhi 1159, where he mentions, if I were to order anyone to prostrate to anyone, then I would have ordered the wife to prostrate to her husband. So even that is not permitted. But still he says like, if I were to order, I would have done that. Even I have forbidden that. So from this as well as from the Quran, we can understand like you do not have permission. You cannot do or bow down your head to any human beings except Allah. Like you can do it only to Allah. So when we make these statements, there will be some cross questions. So they'll mention like in chapter number Quran 234, chapter number 7, verse number 11, in multiple verses, where they'll refer the quotation whereby Allah will order angels to make sajda to Adam alayhi salam, and they'll mention like, see, Allah has ordered the angels to do sajda to Adam alayhi salam. So now we have to understand here, yeah, the word sajda has the meaning like the literal meaning like whatever we do in our prayer, where we bow down our head and we do it. Also it has other meaning like humility, submission. So we have to see like which would be the suitable one. So if we give like humility or submission, in that way they accept it or they obey. They think like, yes, they go by the will of God. They submit to whatever Allah says. If you give this meaning, then you will not have any contradiction. To add to that, we can refer from Quran chapter number 22 verse number 18, where it's mentioned, have you not considered that those in the heavens and the earth, the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, the trees, the animals and many people, all make sajda to God. here there is a list of things, including people. It also says like heavens and the earth, the sun, the moon, trees. So if you take the literal meaning of sajda there, how would it apply? So you cannot take that. But rather, if you say like they submit to the will of God, they obey, they accept, then it will make sense. Like what is the duty of sun and the moon? They have to revolve and do their duty. Similarly, trees have to give fruits. So if you give this kind of meaning, then there will not be any contradiction. This is how we have to understand. We should not take the literal meaning like they bow down, because it will not make any sense for the trees or the earth or the sun or the moon. And the other verse they'll bring it for the proof, like we can bend down, was the dream of Yusuf alayhi salam. Then it's mentioned in chapter number 12, verse number 4, where Yusuf alayhi salam will say about his dream to his father Yaqub alayhi salam, where he'll say like, I saw sun, the moon, and 11 stars making sajda to me. And people will say like, here again we can see like the sun is nothing but Yaqub alayhi salam, the moon is the mother, and the 11 stars are their brothers, and they made sajda to Yusuf alayhi salam. But if you see the explanation for the dream, where this is mentioned in chapter number 12, verse number 100, and he raised his parents high on the throne. So he raised his parents high on the throne, and they did sajda. That's how it will come. And he will say like, oh my father, this is the fulfillment of my vision of the old. Allah had made it come true. So he'll say like, this is the fulfillment of my dream. And from this we can understand like he made his parents higher on the throne. And if you put the meaning like they did the literal sajda, like where they bent down, like if he is in the throne and they're doing it, that would have made sense. But here we can see like that itself contradicts. So you cannot take that meaning. Rather, if you say like they were ready to accept, they accepted his leadership, then it will like they submitted his leadership, like they accepted his leadership. If you give this meaning, then there will not be any contradiction. So these are all the one like we also need to be careful about, like when we know that like there are different meanings, and we have to make sure based on the previous verses whichever we have seen in Quran as well as Hadith, where you can't even stand, and if you want to bow down you can do it only to Allah. So we have to give a meaning which does not contradict those. If in that way if you do it, this would be the suitable meaning. Inshallah, we'll continue more in our next one. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Till now we have seen the kind of respect that the scholars or the leaders that they can expect, whether they can expect superior, they can think themselves as superior, and they can expect special kind of treatment. And how about the people? Can they give more respect to someone other than Allah? And here we have to understand one thing. When we think like, when do we show respect to others in terms of religious scholars or leaders? We think them superior, meaning like we think like they are very pious, they are very closer to Allah, and we think like they'll go to heaven and they'll be able to help us if we get something from them, or if we get their blessings, then we'll also have a good life in the hereafter. This is the thought process that makes them do the silly things like bowing down their head or kissing their feet and others. But if you think in a way, what is the proof you have? Can you say somebody like he will enter Jannah? Like who gave you the authority? We can say like all the prophets will enter paradise. We can say the Sahabas who have been mentioned either in the Quran or by Prophet, like yes, they will enter paradise. Other than that, who are you calling as awliyas, or who are the scholars or the leaders, you do not know. They might show you like they are doing good things, they are doing prayer, like all 5 times prayer, doing sunnah, the hajjat, everything. But you do not know what exactly is going behind the scene. They might be acting in front of the people. They may do a lot of good things just for the people to praise them. So you never even know that. So considering all this, what you would understand is, based on whatever you see from the outer appearance is what you make your decision on. You can think like, yes, he's giving good speech, or he's a scholar like he's giving. We can take Quran or Hadith from him. But you cannot consider him superior to you. And give respect which is totally un-Islamic. Inshallah, let Allah make us among those who understands Quran and Hadith in the right way and follow it in the right way. Wa ardana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.